Ryan Glover, and this video is about the actor James Van Der Beek. He recently revealed that he had a cancer diagnosis. James Van Der Beek revealed he has colorectal cancer in a statement to People published on Sunday. He took to Instagram to explain why the news had to come out sooner than he expected. He said, "There's no playbook for how to announce these things, but I plan on talking about it at length with People magazine at some point to raise awareness and tell my story on my own terms." I think that, medical diagnosis is intrusive. Like, as a journalist, I don't try to, cover stories about, people's, health conditions. And I think, we've lost, that kind of decency in journalism. And one of the reasons that James Van Der Beek had to, reveal this story and do this interview with People is because basically, a tabloid had found this information out. And I don't even know how a tabloid would be able to find information with HIPAA laws, but they were able to find out the information. They were going to release the story. And so he decided to do, an interview with People to come out on his own terms because that's his health issue. But I've always had a lot of respect for James Van Der Beek. I follow him on Instagram, and some of the posts that he does are absolutely inspirational. He's a very, positive figure. I've always enjoyed his films, from Varsity Blues, the television show Dawson's Creek, which launched his career. He's a pretty talented actor. And I think, it's really unfortunate. Cancer sucks. It couldn't have happened to a nicer guy, in my opinion, from, I've never obviously met him, but, seen him, on Instagram and in films and television. He seems like he's a great person. And he's married his wife, Kimberly, in 2010, and they share children, Olivia, Joshua, Annabelle, Amelia, Gwendolyn, and Jeremiah. He has 6 children. That's absolutely amazing, man. And I think, I hope, that he's able to beat this cancer thing. I think, colorectal cancer, he has an early diagnosis. So, that's a positive thing. And, colorectal cancer is a type of cancer that occurs when cells in the colon or rectum grow out of control. The colon is the large intestine, and the rectum is the lower part of the large intestine that connects to the anus. Colorectal cancer is also known as colon cancer. Is one of the most common types of cancer worldwide and a leading cause of cancer deaths in the U.S. Risk factors for colorectal cancer include age, family history, lifestyle factors, and other medical conditions. Common symptoms include diarrhea, constipation, blood in the stool, abdominal pain, unexplained weight loss, fatigue, and low iron levels. Many people don't have symptoms in the early stages of colorectal cancer. Screening tests can help people find polyps and colorectal cancer early when treatment is most effective. The 5-year survival rate for localized colorectal cancer, which is cancer that's confined to the colon or rectum, is 90.6%. So, good for him for getting a early diagnosis. And I think, it's important for, people to get checked. According to the CDC, most people should start getting screened for colorectal cancer when they turn 45 and continue at regular intervals. However, you may need to start earlier or more often if you have certain conditions, inflammatory bowel disease such as ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease, a family history of colorectal cancer, or genetic disorders that increase the risk of colorectal cancer. If you're younger than 45, you should talk to your healthcare provider about your risk and when to start screening. Regular screening is important because colorectal cancer often doesn't cause symptoms, especially in the early stages, as I've talked about earlier. Screening can help find precancerous polyps or colorectal cancer early. And, I think, it's great that James Van Der Beek is getting ahead of this. And, I wish him the best of luck in his fight. I think that it's a very, important, to get diagnosed early. And, I think, that he's coming out, is good for other people. So, they may get tested because I feel he looks like a healthy individual or someone who you wouldn't look at and think, that they have any problems or, they have colorectal cancer. So, if it can happen to him, it can happen to you. Despite the diagnosis, Van Der Beek has continued to work as he undergoes treatment. In December, the actor is set to appear on The Real Full Monty, a 2-hour special where a group of male celebrities will strip down to raise awareness for prostate, testicular, and colorectal cancer testing and research. Alongside Vanderbeek, the special will also feature fellow actor Taye Diggs, Kansas City's chief defensive tackle Chris Jones, and longtime Dancing with the Stars judge Bruno Tonoli. And I think, like, that this is important, like, to raise awareness, like, that celebrities are talking about these issues because, like, I think these are hard things to talk about. He said on his Instagram that, there's no playbook for how to announce these things, but I plan on talking about it at length with People Magazine at some point soon to raise awareness and tell my story on my own terms. Vanderbeek wrote in his own Instagram post. But that plan had to be altered early this morning when I was informed that a tabloid was going to run with the news. And I think that's really the unfortunate part of the story that people aren't talking about, how these media outlets, like, tabloids are basically, like, interfering and being intrusive with people's lives. I think, like, that people's medical diagnosis should be private, and we should give people the grace, even if they are celebrities, like, to be able to be sick and deal with their illness. I think, like, that shouldn't be fodder for the internet. And I think, like, that we've seen this play out, like, time again when, comedians were making jokes about Chadwick Boseman. And, like, it later came out that he had cancer. And I think, like, some comedians have gone online and talked about how they regret that. But, it's people's physical appearance and, like, making fun of that, and, like, especially when they're having health issues, isn't, like, a classy thing to do. And it's like, I try to stay above that, like, not to say that I'm a perfect person, but I think, like, that some things should be off limits. And I think, like, older generations kind of understood that. We could talk about, like, John F. Kennedy. Obviously, he suffered from a number of health problems, and, like, a lot of media outlets didn't report that or, like, do stories on that. And I think, like, there's something to be said, because I think, like, that people, deserve some amount of privacy, even in, like, the internet society that we live in today. So let me know in the comments if you kind of agree, or do you feel like, that people's medical information, if you're a public figure, should be open game, like, for journalists. I don't know. I think, like, that sometimes, like, people need to be able to have their privacy, especially, like, when they're dealing with issues like cancer. And it's like, maybe it's like, it shouldn't be reported unless, like, the person is, like, going public and obviously, like, addressing those issues when they want to. And I think James Vanderbeek, though, like, has a good chance of, like, beating, like, this diagnosis, and is really good that he's doing well right now. And I hope he does. And you have to have, like, a lot of respect for James Vanderbeek, just because he's someone who's demonstrated himself as a class act over the years, and just the way, like, he carries himself. And, obviously being married for 14 years, he's clearly, like, been very private about, like, his relationship, but, like, praised his wife. And they have a number of children, like, 6 kids, like, which is a lot. But, like, being together 14 years in the entertainment industry is no easy task. And it's like, you see, the past relationships of, like, some of his co-stars, who mostly are all divorced. All the people who were on Dawson's Creek, like, pretty much are, like, in and out of relationships all the time. And to be able to stay with someone for 14 years shows a testament to his character. I think that, James Vanderbeek, like, having colorectal cancer puts a lens on, like, the fact that we need to appreciate, like, the great people that are here, like, while they are here. And I would just like to end the video with saying, like, that Black men have a higher risk of developing colorectal cancer than any other racial and ethnic group in the U.S. Black men's higher incident of CRC in 2017 to 2019, the incident rate was 58.3%, 100,000 for non-Hispanic Black men. And then Black men are also about 40% more likely to die from CRC than any other group. And Black men are often diagnosed with colorectal cancer at a younger age. And Black men are often diagnosed with more advanced colorectal cancer. So Some of the reasons for the higher risk of colorectal cancer in Black men include healthcare access. Differences in healthcare access and risk factors are related to socioeconomic status and then barriers to screening. Some people don't get screened because they don't have symptoms or because doctors don't urge them to get screened. So